Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we're gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Tuesday, the third day of December. I know who, what, where, what, why. Yeah, a Tuesday I'm on today because CSB closed yesterday afternoon earlier than my allotted time slot due to the fact that, hey, we were expecting some weather here in the Northeast, and boy, what a whiff that turned out to be. You're hearing reports originally of 1 to 3 inches, then by middle of the day you're hearing that it could be possibly 3 to 5 inches, and I come down here to South Jersey this morning, nothing, nada. As soon as I get on 195, I'm looking like, did it even rain down here? If they would have allowed me to, I would have came down at 9:30 yesterday, done the show, been home by 12:30. That's how ridiculous the weather is. But hey, I'm here today, get to do the podcast. Glad to be here, talk some sports with you all. And, you know, in a way, I'm glad that yesterday's weather closure happened because it gave me a day to calm down. It gave me a day to compose myself and think about things after how pissed off I was on Sunday afternoon. I mean, just look, if you're watching live on either Facebook or Twitter, you see the t-shirt I'm wearing right now. Yeah, we're back to that. We're back to flying the airplanes over MetLife Stadium, over Hofstra, fire Adam Gase, all that stuff, pitchforks, lit in pieces of wood after that disaster that happened on Sunday afternoon. But you know what? I'm not going to start there. I'm not going to sit there and get myself angry for the first, 10, 15 minutes of the podcast. I want to ease myself in because it's all part of a broader picture that I'll talk about a little bit later. Because being the fact that I'm getting to do this podcast on a rare Tuesday. And normally on Tuesdays, when I'm not doing Keeping Sports with M3, I have another podcast that I do for about 15, 20 minutes on Tuesdays and Fridays, breaking down Monday night and Thursday night football, respectively. It's called M3's Opinion. You can find it on anchor.com/M3's Opinion. I think you can also find that on the podcast app as well. And I do that because, hey, I can't talk about Monday Night Football on here, and I don't want to wait until 4 more days after Thursday Night Football to talk about that. Plus, there's always breaking news that goes down in the sports world here and there. So, today's a fun day for me that I actually get to talk about Monday Night Football on Keeping It Sports with M3. And it was a very good show last night. Very entertaining game all the way out. A lot of different twists, different stories, to keep you interested in this game. Two playoff contending teams in the NFC who were both still alive for division title, alive when it comes to potentially getting a first round bye if things break right for them, between the Seahawks and the Vikings. And whenever you have the Vikings in a primetime game, of course, the number one story, love it or hate it, is always going to be about Kirk Cousins. No matter who he's facing on the other side of the field, whether he's facing one of the scrub teams in the league or whether he's facing a playoff contender like the Seahawks. Because on the Seahawks side of things, Russell Wilson's been there, done that. Been to 2 Super Bowls, won one title in his first 3 years in the league. Has had nothing but success in this league. 8 straight seasons to start his career of a winning year, along with 3,000 plus yards passing. He's one of only 3 players in history to have 8 consecutive winning seasons and 3,000 yards passing, to go with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So although, of course, he wants to win more championships, his legacy as a top-tier quarterback and on a path to the Hall of Fame is written. But Kirk Cousins, there's expectations with him because of his contract, because of the numbers that he put up in Washington, and because of the fact that he's had a habit of coming up short in primetime games, coming up short in the moments that truly matter. And last night was a chance to do that for him. And unfortunately, it was another disappointing night for him. And not disappointing in the fact that he played bad, because I actually thought, you look at the numbers, I thought Cousins actually played fairly well. Was he great? No. But was he god-awful? Was he the reason that the Vikings lost this game? No, not at all. No, he and Wilson were tit for tat there. They were seemingly matching each other for most of the first half. I liked how Cousins handled the 2-minute drill coming down the stretch in the first half, get his team in position for a field goal, take a 7-point lead into halftime. But that's where things started to turn on him. That's where things started to turn on the Vikings, because the Seahawks come out, start the second half, get a quick score, move right down the field, tie up the game very quickly. And this is where I thought it was the turning point moment for the Vikings, because they had seemingly gotten all of the bounces to go their way in the first half, especially when Russell Wilson threw that crazy interception. Have you ever seen that before, where a quarterback not just gets the ball tipped at the line a second after it comes out of their hand, but then they go to smack it and one of the defenders picks it off and quickly goes back to the end zone. It was as weird and wacky an interception as you're ever going to see. But hey, we've seen crazier things in Seattle, especially on Monday Night Football. So really should come as no surprise. But the turning point for the Vikings last night is, they get the ball back after the Seahawks tie up the game rather quickly. And on the first and second play of the drive, Dalvin Cook fumbles the ball up as he's running up the middle. Seahawks recover it. Could have turned into an utter disaster for the Vikings in that spot due to the fact that after the play, after they had determined the Seahawks had recovered, you're seeing on one side Dalvin Cook down with an injury, one side Stephon Diggs down with an injury. And as a Viking fan, you're thinking, oh my God, this is worst case scenario. Not only we turn over the ball on our side of the field, but 2 of our best weapons are injured. We're already playing without Adam Thielen tonight. And they were able to hold the Seahawks to a field goal, But that was just the beginning of what would be a 24-0 run for them from the start of the second half to about 3-4 minutes into the fourth quarter, because you get the go-ahead field goal by Jason Myers. They leave David Moore wide open. He gets a 60-yard touchdown, and then you get that crazy interception by Trey Flowers, which you're surprised that he held on to it, because he was kind of diving for the ground as he's catching that. And if you're a Viking fan, you're thinking, oh, what else could go wrong here? We're already down by 10. The Seahawks wound up scoring on a Rashad Penny touchdown there. We're down by 17 with not much time to go. This is going to turn into a blowout, another disaster for Cousins. But you know what? They made things interesting here. They fought back. Cousins showed some stick-to-itiveness, and you know what? The impressive part is not only the Vikings fight back, but how quickly they did so. I mean, the Seahawks, there was some missed coverage there, leaving Laquan Treadwell wide open for a 58-yard touchdown, get them within 10. Only took about 40 seconds off the clock, and then they get a gift handed to them as Seahawks are crossing midfield on the next drive with DK Metcalf fumbling the ball right back to the Vikings, and they calmly and easily moved down the field in just about 2 minutes, closed the gap to within 4 points. Problem is, that's where things started to go wrong for them again. They miss the PAT, meaning now they got to score a touchdown. They can't just settle for a field goal when they get the ball back to tie the game up and hopefully try and win it in overtime. They get the one last chance to convert here, but Cousins missed a couple shots down the field. They failed on the 4th and 3 to Irv Smith. Were able to get Seattle to settle for a field goal with 20 seconds left. But as you see a lot of times when it comes to the returning opening kickoff, you have guys handling the football who either aren't used to handling the football or really shouldn't be handling the football. And any chance they had at maybe a last-second Hail Mary to win the game, or some kind of one of these crazy fumble-rooskies or flea flick kind of plays, was killed when C.J. Ham fumbled the ball back to Seattle on the final kickoff of the game, causing the Vikings to lose last night 37-30. And I'm going to tell you, Kirk Cousins is 0-8 now on Monday Night Football. We had thought he had somewhat conquered the primetime road game demons when he went on the road earlier last month and defeated the Dallas Cowboys. But Monday nights have just really never been Kirk Cousins' friend, never been something that he has conquered, and it's going to be something that everyone brings up until he finally gets that win on Monday Night Football, or until he leads the Vikings on a deep drive into the postseason. And I know a lot of people are going to be screaming, end of the world for the Vikings today. I still think they're making the playoffs. Look at the bottom of the NFC. I know the Bears are playing the Cowboys this coming Thursday, and they're one game behind. But do you really trust them? Do you really think that they can make any sort of run? What about the Rams? The Rams have been hit or miss. I know they got things going this week against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are a team that's really going nowhere. And the Eagles are 5-7, and their only chance at getting in is probably the division, with them being 3 games behind the Vikings. And we talked about their easy schedule coming up, but they didn't make things look so easy, losing to the Dolphins in Miami on Sunday. So I know it's a bad loss on the road on Monday Night Football. They suckered you in, Vikings fans, but I still think they're going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win the division now. Last night was not Kirk Cousins' fault. Last night was the fault of your defense. It was the fault of the fact that your defense had been one of the top 5 rushing defenses in the league this year, had only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns coming into last night, was only allowing about 94 yards on the ground per game. And last night, Seattle ran all over them, especially Chris Carson having his 4th 100-yard game of the season. I had 2 rushing touchdowns, one by each of their backs. So that is where the problems lied last night. Not, Kirk Cousins, not the, fluky interception he threw. He can't control the fact that C.J. Ham is going to fumble the final kickoff of the game. And when he was put in a difficult spot, down by 3 scores, he got you back into the game. But your defense didn't make the stops when they needed to. Seattle was able to convert first downs on the ground when necessary. And you had some turnover problems with the fumbles, with Cook's fumble in your own territory, with the final fumble of the game. And it's weird how much of an impact this one game, had on the NFC standings. Because with the great year that the 49ers have had, they get off to a 8-0 start. We're talking about them. Oh, their defense is awesome. The Super Bowl contenders. Is Garoppolo going to get in the way of things here? You would think they were running away with the NFC West. But somehow, some way, Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll have this group of lesser known guys with the Seahawks at 10-2 as well. And because of the win they had, 4 or 5 weeks ago on Monday Night Football, they're 10-2. 49ers are 10-2, and now that they have taken over the tiebreaker lead for the NFC West and are the 2 spot in the NFC postseason right now, pushing the Saints to the number 1 spot at 10-2 after that win they had against the Hawks earlier this year with Teddy Bridgewater. So now you got the 49ers saying, wait a minute, we get off to an 8-0 start. We're 10-2. We have one of the best records in the NFC. We barely lost to the Ravens on Sunday to slip to 10-2 with 4 games to go. And we're now, if the postseason started today, we're the 5 seed. Wow. That shows you how much of an impact, how much of a change this one game had on the playoff standings. But they're going to get another shot against Seattle. They play on the last weekend of the season up in Seattle. See if the Niners can get some revenge. But it was great to see a close, tight-knit game between 2 playoff contenders on Monday Night Football, and great to see how much of an impact this had on the NFC postseason, especially in that West, where you got 2 teams they can legitimately argue are Super Bowl contenders, with the Seahawks and the 49ers joining both the Packers and the Saints as the 4 teams right now. You could really say they could come out of the NFC and win the Super Bowl. I'm not so sure about the Vikings, or definitely not whoever plays the NFC East who comes out of that, because the weird thing is, technically the Redskins, if they won out, could still make the postseason, as messed up as that sounds. If Dallas and the Eagles don't seem like they want to win that division, but got plenty of time to talk to them about them, get some thoughts about them, as well as everything else that went on in week 13 throughout the podcast. Give some thoughts, of course, on the Jets. The even bigger disaster is the Giants. Look at the landscape of New York sports in general, how we're looking on this Tuesday in December. Some thoughts on college football and how, when it comes to college football, it's feeling like high school for me all over again. I'll tell you about that later. And whatever else comes to mind here. Got another 40, 45 minutes or so to play with here. Glad you could tune in this week. So, you know what? sit back. Hey, relax on this Tuesday afternoon. Put your feet up on the table if you feel like it, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Glad you could tune in on this Tuesday afternoon. As I said, my week kind of feels messed up now. I'm not used to being here on Tuesday. I'm used to doing a podcast on Tuesday. As I said, check out my other podcast, M3's Opinion, at anchor.com/M3's Opinion. Excuse me, anchor.fm/M3's Opinion. Let's get that correct if I'm going to self-promote myself. But Go check that out. I gave reaction to all of the Thursday games from Thanksgiving last week. I hope all of you had a safe, very enjoyable Thanksgiving with your friends, family. Stayed safe on what is the best night of the year, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. And, had a little less stress, aggravation compared to your normal lives. Of course, for me, though, the anger and stress came back on Sunday when it came to the New York Jets. I think, as I mentioned earlier, thank God I didn't have the podcast yesterday and that I'm doing it today. Gave me a day to take a breath, compose myself, and calm down because I was livid at about 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon when the Jets lost this game. And you know what? You could argue it was very predictable that this was going to happen, that the Jets were going to lose this game. Not because of anything the Bengals did, not because of them taking Finley out and putting Andy Dalton back in there, not because of the pass rush they got with Schiano and, of course, Carlos Dunlap, who had another career day with 3 sacks on Darnold. But because over the years, there have been so many of these same old Jets moments. And I've stated this before. I stated this time and time again. Same old Jets is not the butt fumble. Same old Jets is not trading for Tim Tebow. It's not getting blown out 42-3 on a primetime game. What same old Jets is they raise your expectations, raise your hopes, get you excited, and then they snatch it away very quickly. Example here, they had won 3 in a row. They beat what we thought was a good Oakland Raiders team, although that is up in the air after they got their ass kicked in Kansas City on Sunday afternoon. They handily beat the Raiders, won 3 in a row, 3 consecutive games in which they're scoring 34 points. People are getting excited, saying, Darnold's playing well. The team's been better since Beachum came back at left tackle, since they put Harrison at center. The only issue you're really having is the fact that Le'Veon Bell hasn't been a big part of this offense. You're not having any more of the airplanes flying over MetLife Stadium or flying over the Jets practice facility. And you already have people looking ahead saying, hey, they can win these next 2 games against bad teams, the Bengals and the Dolphins. They go into that Thursday night game in 2 weeks against the Ravens, still alive, something to play for, and maybe they could pull off the shocker and be competitive. But what did I tell you all last week? I said, calm down. I said, 1 game at a time. We're on to Cincinnati. We're not thinking about Baltimore yet. And look what happened. The Jets came out as flat as a pancake and played one of their worst games of the season. And only the Jets could make this kind of history. Make the kind of history that you don't want to be a part of. Being the first team in the history of this league to lose to not just 1, but 2 teams that were 0-7 or worse in the same damn season. And I'm looking on Twitter right now. I see my best friend Brian Cooney watching this on Twitter. He's probably sitting wherever he's watching this right now, laughing his rear end off at the pain and the anguish that my team puts me through on a week in, week out basis. The fact that I can't get a consistent happiness just when I think, you know what, we're going in the right direction. Take this 1 week at a time. Yeah, he's writing fins up right now. He knows I'm talking about him. Go 1 game at a time, feeling good about things, and then they snatch it all away from me. And you know what? I'm not going to absolve Sam Darnold from this. He did not play well. The only thing he didn't do on Sunday that was a positive was turn the ball over. He didn't have his typical when the team plays bad, I'll throw 2 or 3 interceptions and have everybody saying, oh, he's seeing ghosts again, though you could have argued that Sunday with the fact that the Bengals are running a 4-man rush at him, and he's still got no time in the pocket. And I started having the bad thoughts about this game. I was already concerned and nervous about this based off the Jets' history, based off the fact that they've done this a couple times in their history, losing to a team that was 0-8, 0-7, something like that, and being that team's one and only victory during the season. I started getting concerned when on the first drive, you have Robbie Anderson drop what would have been a touchdown right in the end zone. And for all the big talk, for all the false bravado, Robbie Anderson likes to tries to act like he's some kind of Pro Bowler that should be making big-time money. If you're a big-time receiver, if you're number 1 guy, you should be catching that football. You could argue Darnold overthrew it by a foot or 2, but that's a ball you got to catch if you're Anderson. You got single coverage on you, and the guy's not even looking back at the football. You got to have that. But I started getting concerned on the 3rd down when Berrios dropped a wide open pass. Right there along the right side of the field. Couldn't have been an easier play. You could have walked the football to him with the amount of room that there was there. And he drops it right at his feet. So, I mean, this is a guy that's ticked us off as Jet fans all year long with all the fair catches he's making on punts and kickoffs, never taking a shot to take it out of the end zone. And when he does, there's been times where he's fumbled the football. And right then and there, when they settled for a field goal, that's when I start getting concerned. Because a desperate team, a team that has nothing to play for other than pride and does not want to be the 3rd team in the history of a 16-game regular season to pull off a donut. They don't want to join the 2008 Detroit Lions or the 2017 Cleveland Browns. They wanted to get that off the books and get Zach Taylor his first career win. I just had a bad sense after that first drive. And what do you know? All the way around this was a miserable game. All the way around, this was a bad day. Whether you talk about the offensive line, the offensive line to me was the worst thing for them on Sunday. All the penalties they're committing. I mean, the Jets had 10 penalties in this game, 7 of them by the offensive line. You had back-to-back plays at one point in the third quarter where Tom Compton, who's playing right guard, commits penalties with a holding penalty, and then he had a chop block penalty, a frontward chop block penalty. Just had me aggravated. Took away a 24-yard gain for Le'Veon Bell. And they didn't protect Darnold for most of this day. He didn't have time to throw the football down the field. And you know what? I don't just blame this on the O-line. I blame it on Adam Gase's game plan. Adam Gase, the fact that he's consistently having Darnold drop back when you always have someone with a hand in his face, always having someone bring pressure on. Because the Bengals, they may only sacked him 4 times, but it felt like they had a guy in his face all game long. No time to, check his guys down the field, even to get a simple little check down to convert a first down. Didn't even have time to get out of the pocket and run for a first down on some of the third and shorts that they had. But to make things worse, you're clearly seeing now why there was the power struggle between him and Mike McCagnon. Because he didn't want Le'Veon Bell here. Let's face it. The way he's using Le'Veon Bell is a clear example. I mean, you have your quarterback drop back to pass 48 times on Sunday. You know how many times they ran the football? 17. 10 in the first half, 7 in the second half, and only gave Le'Veon Bell the ball 10 times. And for some reason, every time they run the football, they're calling for runs up the middle, even though if you watch the Bengals, you would know that they're one of the worst teams in the league at stopping the run. And a lot of that is because of teams running outside the tackle, not running up the middle to Atkins and Dunlap. No, they're running outside of the pocket and taking advantage of the opposition's defensive ends. But somehow, someway, the Jets can't figure out to do that. And when your quarterback's struggling, you just get away from the run game so quickly. I mean, yeah, I know he was only averaging 3 yards a carry, but you keep with the run game because A, that tires down their defense to take time off the clock and keep your defense off the field, and B, it sets up the play action pass, sets up and gives your quarterback a better chance to go down the field. I mean, just all the way around, this game had me ticked off. And then late in the game, I'm seeing Darnold limping on the field when the game's already, for the way this one went, out of reach, down by 16. I mean, your defense only gives up 20 points, and you can't match that in Cincinnati against the Bengals, who, let's face it, after halftime, we're just asking for you to come back and win this game. Because there was nothing impressive Andy Dalton did on Sunday. He just took advantage of what was given to him. What was given to him was a defense that didn't change its coverage, stuck with a zone coverage the entire day instead of going to a man when you can see they're not taking deep shots down the field. They're just going with the underneath routes, converting the simple third downs. Meanwhile, the Jets have guys all the way back, not even within arm's reach of the receivers. And it could have been worse if not for their tight end dropping an easy touchdown there in the beginning of the third quarter. And then to add on to it, now Jamal's injured. One of the only bright spots of this team, one of the only things that can make you smile as a Jet fan. I mean, this game, it not only represents what's bad going on with the Jets, but what's bad going on with New York sports right now. I mean, you look at it, you got the Knicks who are 4-17, who have lost 7 games in a row. They got blown out last night in Milwaukee, and you got their head coach saying that oh, we didn't even think we had a chance to win coming into this game. I've said it before. He's a dead man walking. I'm surprised that he's going to make it till Christmas, it seems like. I thought for sure he would have been fired by now. You got the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie Irving posting cryptic stuff on Instagram, complaining about the fact that, oh, the Boston Celtic fans booed me and were chanting, "Where's Kyrie?" making it a personal attack on me. Well, bro, listen, fans are going to boo. You can't stop that. They were mad with the fact that you were there 2 years. You never won a championship there. The best success they had was the year you were injured, and you got knocked out of the postseason in the second year fairly easily by the Milwaukee Bucks. And before that season, you're telling the fan base at a meet and greet that if you all have me back, I'd love to come back. And the first opportunity you have to leave, you leave and go to the division rival Brooklyn Nets. You've got the Devils getting blown out last night in Buffalo, 7-1, giving up 5 goals in the first period. Who knows how much time John Hines has left as their head coach, knowing how quickly head coaches can get hired and fired in this league. The Rangers, they're a young up-and-coming team, and I can't even sit here and wish bad on them right now because of all the fan bases, that's the opposing New York fan base that I disdain the most because they have really no one on the team to hate right now. They don't have, the old guard, the Rick Nashes of the world where I'm poking fun at the Ranger fans saying, they can't get you guys to a Stanley Cup, or the King, as they call them, is being the Trevor Hoffman to Marty Brodeur being our Mariano Rivera. The Islanders, that they were just on this impressive streak as far as points scored, but they're treated as kind of like the redheaded stepchild, or what they're more like. They're like that cousin that comes to Thanksgiving dinner that is very successful, has a well-paying job, but for some reason, there's just one thing that no one likes him. There's just one thing about them that, I don't know if it rubs them the wrong way or no one wants outside of their fan base to have any part of them, but for some reason, they're always treated as redhead stepchilds of New York City, even though they're probably the best playing of the New York sports teams right now when you consider the Jets and they're 4-7. The Giants, the fact that the only thing saving the Jets is the fact that the Giants are even worse than them, getting blown out on Sunday afternoon at MetLife Stadium on a weekend that was owner John Mara's birthday. But hey, that game was predictable. If you did not see that coming, you got your head lost in the clouds because the Packers were not going to just stand for getting blown out in California twice in 1 week. And, the Giants got more problems than you can understand. The fact that their young secondary isn't playing well. The fact that it seems like Saquon Barkley is playing on one leg and doesn't seem himself. Injuries to the wide receivers. Daniel Jones continuing to make turnovers, throwing 3 interceptions on Sunday. And the worst part about those 3 interceptions is the Giants were in this game. They were trading scores back and forth early on with the Packers, but then he throws the interception to King in Packers territory. He throws 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter when with the first one, it was still, 11-point game, still had you hoping maybe there's a shot to compete in this game. And you got to listen to this bonehead Pat Shurmur after the game saying, oh, well, those were throws. Those weren't fumbles. I mean, give me a break. This guy's a dead man walking. In 2 years, he's 7-21. But that's just how bad the Giants have been these last several years. They made all the problems 4 years ago about Tom Coughlin, and look what's happened since. Yeah, they had that one playoff season with Ben McAdoo the next year when they spent all the money on defense, bringing in Janoris Jenkins, bringing in Snacks Harrison, bringing in Olivier Vernon. Now, you had a good group of young wide receivers. But what happened? The boat trip, the drops in the playoff game in Green Bay. The next year, you're having Odell get injured in preseason. Brandon Marshall getting hurt. You're picking guys out of the stands to play wide receiver for the Giants. Eli not even being a chance. McAdoo benches Eli for Geno Smith, saying that, this gives us the best chance to win. And he gets fired before even the end of his second season. Gettleman comes in. He brings in this failure of a head coach in Pat Shurmur, and they've been an absolute disaster. And, I talk about the landscape of New York sports, talking about how bad it is. What makes it all worse is that, our one saving light, our one bright shining light amongst the teams that truly get respected in this area, get the top attention, because as I said, Islanders, as good as they are treated like a red-headed stepchild in this area. And the Brooklyn Nets, while they're 10-10, they're kind of just average right now after 20 games. I'm not annoyed with the way they're playing, but I'm not pleased with the way they're playing without Kyrie Irving, without Karis LeVert. Our one bright shining light is not available for us right now because we're in the midst of the baseball offseason. And, the Yankees haven't done anything to either make me happy or annoy me just yet. So, it's just an all-around bad time for New York sports, especially with our football teams and especially with our basketball teams. I mean, we can't just get one of them. One of them. I'm not asking all of them. One of them to give us, well playing on the field and nothing off the field bad to talk about. No star players posting cryptic Instagram posts. No head coaches saying, we didn't think we had a chance to win. No head coaches making excuses for turnovers. And no head coach ducking his hat down, afraid to look at the media after a game they lost that they were somehow favored in on the road and made the worst kind of history that you could ask for. I mean, it's just a joke right now. And it's the aggravation we got to deal with, at least until pitchers and catchers report this coming February. I'm going to calm myself down from the aggravation, take a little break here, maybe walk the hallways here at Connecticut School of Broadcasting for a couple of minutes, and come back and reflect a little bit on the weekend that was with Week 13 in the National Football League. At least I got to watch some real football over the course of Thursday and Sunday, even Monday night. So I feel like it. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you all having a great Tuesday afternoon. Remember, tell your friends about this podcast where you can find it each and every single week on Facebook.com/Keeping It Sports with M3. Not asking for friends on Facebook. Not asking for that. Just go to the Facebook page. You can find the replay of the live edition. If I would get the camera on me, there we go. Now you can see me. Find the replay of the live edition, as well as if you don't feel like looking at me for an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes, however long they decide to let me ramble on here for, you can listen to the podcast version that will be available there, as well as on my Twitter account and on the Twitter account I've set up for the podcast. My personal Twitter account is at M3Rozansky. That's at MTHREEROZANSKY. And the Twitter account I've set up for the podcast is at Keeping It Sports. They won't let me put the at Keeping It Sports with M3 because that's more than 15 characters. But hey, go figure. Now, I mentioned before that the Giants got their ass kicked at MetLife Stadium on Sunday against the Packers. And you know what? You could see that coming because the Packers twice in the span of 1 month have gotten blown out in the state of California. I mean, it was surprising enough the poor performance they had against the Chargers about 3 weeks ago. But then to get their doors blown off in a primetime game against a team that they may see again in the San Francisco 49ers was even more stunning to me. And you knew that they were going to come back with a better performance. You knew that they were going to want to play better. And with the Giants, how their season is seemingly going nowhere, lost 7 in a row coming in, they were going to take advantage of this spot, take advantage of this opportunity, because the Packers, not only do they got the Vikings chasing them down for the division, now a game and a half back after last night's loss with still one matchup left to play between these two teams. The Packers also want to win the division and potentially get home field for the playoffs and get that first round bye, and they're going to have an opportunity to do so. You look at, they have 2 home games, 2 road games left. Finish up the season with 2 road games, one against Minnesota on Sunday Night Football in Week 16. And I'm hoping that that game is still for the division title, that the Vikings take care of their business with their games against the Lions and Chargers coming up before that big matchup. But you know, it's right there in front of them for the Packers. 2 home games coming up, one against the Redskins, then against the division rival Bears. Thing they have going for them is the fact they're already 3-0 in division with 3 games against the rest of the NFC North to finish up their season. And the Saints and the Saints and the 49ers played this Sunday. You know that the 49ers are going to want to bounce back from that, want to still keep their hope alive for winning the division and getting a home field advantage in the postseason. So while those two teams are beating each other up, the Packers, for their sake, should be taking care of business. One team that's taking care of business, and I said this last week, I'll say this again, we do not give this team any respect whatsoever, is the Tennessee Titans. You know, going into Indianapolis on Sunday, and it was business as usual for them. You know, Tannehill now 5-2 since taking over as the starting quarterback there, not making mistakes, just staying within the flow of things, being a contributor, not being the sole reason they're winning, because that team's built on quality from their defense and a great ground attack. I mean, Derrick Henry is one of the best players in this league we don't talk about, and he does nothing seemingly but rush for $150 every single week. And the moment you really felt good about this game as a Titans fan, 5 minutes ago, looks like the Colts are going to go set up for a go-ahead field goal. And what's been a down, disappointing year for Adam Vinatieri continues as he gets a 46-yard field goal attempt blocked. Ty Smith recovers it and takes it back down the field. And then, the Colts hoping for one last chance, one last try there. choke away with 4 minutes remaining on the following drive when Brissett throws his second interception of the game. And from there, the Titans slowly and methodically went down the field, took a lot of time off the clock, took a 2-touchdown lead, and it never looked back. And now they sit here 7-5 with 4 games left to play, still have 2 matchups left against the Houston Texans in their final 3 games of the year. And I'm not saying they're going to come back and win the division, but they're alive. They are clearly alive for not just the division, but potentially a wild card spot if things break right for them. Mentioned the 49ers before. They fell to the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday afternoon, 20-17. This game, what you liked about it is there was a lot of scoring early on, but then the defenses took over in the second half. Was it because of the rain? Was it because of the 49ers able to slow down Mark Ingram, or the fact that Garoppolo didn't capitalize on enough opportunities? Not really sure there. But the Ravens have a great advantage over seemingly everybody else in this league, and that is an awesome kicker, a clutch kicker in Justin Tucker. I know he, was it earlier this year, late last year, missed a PAT attempt that cost him a game, but this guy just time and time again is coming up with these clutch kicks. And 49 yards is never easy, but 49 yards in a driving rainstorm like that, to walk it off at the buzzer, an unbelievable feat for him, and keeps the Ravens motor going. They've now won 8 in a row. At 10-2, they take over the lead for the top spot in the AFC after the Pats lost to the Texans later that night. And, as good as the Texans were, Sean Watson had a very good night, even had a receiving touchdown on a trick play with DeAndre Hopkins. I thought this game showed a lot more the problems that are going on with New England than we really realized. Their defense, for the first time this year, allowed 4 passing touchdowns in one game, and they had allowed only 4 total coming in. And then, the offense, Brady through the first 3 quarters, and he made fantasy players happy with the final numbers, throwing for 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards. But through 3 quarters, he had completed less than 50% of his passes. Unless he had James White open to the left, or Julian Edelman open across the middle, did not have that consistent 3rd or 4th option on this team. And they're starting to really feel the results of Gronkowski retiring and them getting rid of Antonio Brown after just 1 game. And, I know there's been a lot of cry by Patriot fans, Patriot players, and even the Patriots coaching staff for Robert Kraft to reconsider bringing Antonio Brown back. But, we still don't know the results of this potential suspension, the investigation that the league is doing. So you really want to get back in bed with this guy who seems like a complete head case. And I know he's saying all the right things on social media the last couple weeks, but, it seems like he's the kind of guy that will say one thing one week, and then it will be a completely different story the next. Maybe it's just maybe we just have to admit it's not the Patriots' year to be the overwhelming favorite in the postseason. And maybe, it's time they prove something by going on the road, not having the AFC run through Foxborough in the postseason. Have a little adversity here. I mean, if Tom Brady won a Super Bowl this year, this would be his greatest feat of his Hall of Fame career. Win his 7th title with an offense that is 26th in the league. He's got his worst completion percentage of his career. And it's not going to be that easy of a stretch coming down when you consider two of the games are, they're at home, but they're against the Chiefs and the Bills. And the Chiefs, the Chiefs aren't giving up on getting home field throughout the postseason, not giving up on having a shot to get a first-round bye in the playoffs. They took no prisoners against the Raiders on Sunday, and we're starting to see that the Raiders might be more of a fluke team than we thought. With all the mistakes that the Raiders were making, I mean, you look at the Raiders outgained the Chiefs 332 to 259 on Sunday afternoon. They moved the ball relatively well down the field. But they turned the ball over on their first two drives of the game. A Carr throwing the interception to Matthew. And then on the following kickoff, Trevor Davis fumbles in Chief territory. The only saving grace is Chiefs went for it on fourth down, but failed there. But the Raiders were even worse on fourth down. You have Trevor. Here's what I don't understand. They have a 4th and 1 at midfield. And for some reason, Josh Jacobs is not on the field. A guy who's, in consideration for Offensive Rookie of the Year, has been one of your bright, shiny draft picks, been one of the reasons that everyone's throwing bouquets Gruden's way and Mike Mayock's way, saying, hey, maybe they got things figured out. Maybe this team's better than we thought. On a 4th and 1, you have your backup running back taking the handoff, a play that I still don't even understand what the hell happened there. And then to add to what has been a piss poor last 2 weeks for this Raiders team, they finally got a touchdown on the board in the final couple of seconds of the game. What do you know? The PAT gets blocked and returned by Daniel Carlson for 2 points down the field. So they're a team that's looking like a fluke, like a what I talked about last week, a pretender. They're not a real playoff team, and they're definitely not going anywhere Super Bowl wise. They're joining teams that are pretenders like the Eagles. Eagles are a pretender. I mean, you have a two-touchdown lead in the second half against the Miami Dolphins, a team that's got nothing to play for other than draft position. And you let Ryan Fitzpatrick and company come out there and look like the greatest show on turf. I mean, they're doing trick plays like having the punter throw to the kicker in the end zone. And, having wide receivers on the Eagles side of things drop passes all over the field. I mean, you look at the two wide receiver cores that were out there for the Eagles and the Dolphins on Sunday. You say, all right, you could take whichever quarterback you want and whichever wide receiver group you want. I think most would take Carson Wentz, even though that's questionable right now with his dismal play over the last several weeks. But you look at the two wide receiver cores, and you're definitely saying to yourself, yeah, I'll take what the Dolphins are running out there because they look like they have a clue. I mean, this is feeling a lot like a major league right now, what the Dolphins are doing. The fact that they've won 3 of the last 5 games after an 0-7 start. The players are playing for Brian Flores. They're actually giving a damn. Meanwhile, ownership and the front office want to lose every game possible. I mean, they traded away most of their good players before the season, and the team's now won 3 of the last 5 games, taking them out of potentially either drafting Joe Burrows with the first pick or even Tua, even though Tua might be available to with his injury problems. I mean, it's unbelievable. The fact that it's right there in front of the Eagles and they can't take advantage of it. The fact that the Cowboys have lost 2 in a row and are seemingly a mess right now, and including getting blown out on Thanksgiving by the Buffalo Bills. And they're just asking the Eagles, here's the division, here's it on a silver platter. You got an easier schedule than us coming down the stretch with the Dolphins, the Redskins, and the Giants twice, and they can't take advantage of it. That's why, I'm not surprised that people are actually bringing up the idea of, hey, the Redskins went out, they could actually win the division, although I don't think that's happening, but just an all-around joke that's going on with them. I do have to give credit where credit's due to one place, actually two places. The Rams, for bouncing back and playing well against the Cardinals. I mean, they had a no-show performance against the Ravens last Monday night. Come back, put up over 400 yards against the Cardinals. Defense was heavily criticized last week. Played fairly well. Kept Kyler Murray and company in check. And, the game was pretty much over at halftime. The Redskins for coming out and competing against the Panthers after the Panthers took a 2-touchdown lead first 5 minutes of this game, and the Redskins could have easily mailed it in. But, they rushed for over 230 yards on Sunday afternoon, including this kid Geis, who's looking like one of the lone bright shining things for this team. And, probably knocked the Panthers out of any and all consideration for the postseason, considering now they're 3 games back of the wild card with 4 games to go, and the division is no longer an option for them, with the Saints clinching it last week. But number one place I got to give credit is to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, because this team could have folded the tent and given up on the year back in September. You lost Ben Roethlisberger for the year. You're on your second string quarterback with Mason Rudolph. He gets hurt, gets a concussion. You put in this guy, Devlin Hodges, who I'm getting a little sick of this Duck Hodges nickname. I mean, play more than 2-3 games before we give you a nickname, kid. But he puts the third string quarterback in. They're still winning games. They're 7-5 at a time where Juju Smith-Schuster has missed a couple games in a row. James Conner has been out for the last 2-3 games. I can't remember the last time these two guys played a game together. They got a bunch of nobodies out there at wide receiver and running back, and he still got them at 7-5. And right now, if the postseason began, they'd be in the playoffs. And they're taking care of a Browns team that looks like a total train wreck. I mean, the Browns, that they missed opportunities on Sunday after they get the Terrence Mitchell interception in Steelers territory. And you have Freddie Kitchens, who has no idea what he's doing. Instead of giving the ball to Nick Chubb, he's having Baker drop back those 2 incompletions and got sacked, leading to them punting in Steelers territory. I mean, it's an all-around mess for the Browns. They continue to be an embarrassment with the 10 more penalties, being as undisciplined a team there is in the league. You got Freddie Kitchens wearing a Pittsburgh Started It t-shirt to the movies on Friday night. Yeah, you can wear that on Friday nights starting in January when you're out of a job, when the Browns are looking for a real head coach there, someone to put a foot up these guys' asses. But the Steelers, they're not complaining about any of their issues. They're not making excuses. Unlike, the New York media was doing the first half of the year when Sam Darnold had mono and the Jets were running a different offensive line out there each week. They're taking what they got each and every Sunday, and they're going out there and playing. I mean, this team, would they get off to an 0-4 start, and now they're 7-5? They've got, or 0-3, I believe it was, They've won 7 of their last 9 games, and they're got a good shot to make the postseason. And never once have you heard Mike Tomlin, any of the players there, make any excuses for the issues that are going on there. So I give them a lot of credit for what they've been able to pull off so far this year. I'm going to take one last break here, come back, close things up with some thoughts on college football, including one thing that happened over this week that, as I said earlier, made me start feeling like it was high school all over again. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
All right, big finish here with Keeping It Sports with M3 on a Tuesday. For those of you who have stuck through this in the live version, God bless you, because I've had a lot of things that I've screamed about, hollered about through this first hour or so here. A couple minutes left to finish up with some thoughts on college football, but I want to give another piece of credit here to someone I completely let this pass by me about a half hour ago when I was talking about the NBA. Two people in particular. Listen, I know a lot of people get aggravated by James Harden and the way he plays. It's a lot of dribbling, not a lot of passing, takes a million shots per game. But you can't deny what this guy's done this year. Right now, I'd have to say it's between him, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James as far as league MVP. And, Harden has just continued to play awesome, continued to play on what looks like it's going to be Hall of Fame pace when it's all said and done. I remember, think back years ago when there was all the doubters of whether this guy could be the lead guy on a team, and he's still got stuff to prove. He's still, got to get to an NBA Finals as the lead guy, get past the Western Conference, and there's going to be the chance for him this year, considering there's his typical roadblock being the Golden State Warriors is not there. Going to have to go through at least one of the LA teams to do so. But got to give him some credit. On other night, he had 60 points through three quarters against the Atlanta Hawks, leading the league with 38 points a game, third in efficiency at 34.4 per game, behind Giannis and Luka. Does lead the league in turnovers, but the guy has his team right in prime position to be a top four playoff team in the West this year. Other guy is Carmelo Anthony, and he's showing recently. I know some want to get on it, the fact that why is he winning Western Conference Player of the Week? Luka and Harden probably had better weeks than him. This is just a good feel story here. But the guy has come back from being out for a year and played very well. And he was out for a year for all the wrong reasons, because there was not one team up until recently that thought that, he can make a 15-man roster. That the league was actually somehow sending him a subliminal message that there were 450 guys better than him. It was ridiculous. So, he's come back. He's played well over the course of 6 games, averaging 17 points a game, 6 rebounds over the course of 30 minutes, given a little bit of life in the last week to that Portland Trailblazers squad. See if that continues and they get back into the postseason mix after a slow 4-8 start to this season. Now, when it comes to college football, we'll get to the playoff stuff in a minute, but I'm starting to feel like it's high school all over for me here, because since I graduated high school, or mainly the last 8 years, one of the drags of college football has been our local team, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I mean, you look at it, under Kyle Flood, they were only one game over 500, went to 2 bowl games in his time there. Under Chris Ash, for 3.5 years, the team was god-awful. He got fired after 4 games this season, and they weren't much better under Nunzio Campanelli. But maybe, finally, their scarlet knight in shining armor, pun intended, has arrived. Maybe the savior has come, because this should have happened a long time ago. Greg Schiano is coming back to Rutgers to be their head coach. And let's face it, that's where they've had their best success. That's where this team was at its most relevant from 2001 through 2011 when he was their head coach for that decade. And while, on paper, his record is only 1 game over 500 in that time, he built them into a winning, successful program. They weren't, the problem with Rutgers, the biggest problem with them is my senior year of high school. Shows you how long ago this was, 2006. They went 11-2 that year. And they thought they were big shots. They thought they had arrived. They thought they were that rags to riches story and went from being at the bottom to being a prime-time player in the sport. Remember, they had that Thursday night game against Louisville on ESPN that they shocked the country, won that one at home, but came back the next week and no-showed against Cincinnati and lost the final game of the season in overtime to West Virginia, a game that would have put them in the Big East Championship game and gotten them into one of the BCS bowl games. But they flubbed on that and never really got back to that momentum since. They thought, 11-2, we're a big-time player now. Started expanding their stadium, thought they were a big deal because they were beating up on the small teams, but never really got over that hump. Even jumped to the Big Ten about 7-8 years ago. And since they went to the Big Ten, it's been a disaster. It's been a miserable time for this program. And they have seemingly never gotten off the mat from that. Seemingly have never recovered from that. And whether it was Kyle Flood, whether it was then Chris Ash, have not been a competitive team. I don't know what it is, whether it's coaching, poor recruiting, the fact that, New Jersey, believe it or not, is actually very much a hotbed for high school football. And when it comes to a lot of talent coming out, going to college, and especially up north, and they're not able to keep a lot of the top prospects in state going to Rutgers, and I don't blame them. When you see the last 4 years going 2-10, 4-8, 1-11, 2-10 again this year. Before that, they were 4-8. This team has been miserable now for the last 5 years, and really gone back the last decade having 2 winning seasons. In the last 8 years, this team is 36-65. I mean, that's not good. They're 29 games under 500. So now Schiano comes back, hopefully bring some respectability back to this program. Get them to the point where they're not getting blown out every year by Maryland, Illinois, the middle tier teams of the Big Ten. I'm not asking them to go out there and beat Ohio State, beat Wisconsin, but I'm asking them to be competitive against those schools, beat the likes of Maryland, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska on occasion, and slowly build yourselves up from being trash back to being bowl eligible, and then we'll go from there, instead of the nonsense that they have become the last 7-8 years. I'm very much looking forward to tonight at around, 7-8 o'clock when they announce this week's rankings in the college football playoffs, because we went into this weekend with legitimately 9 teams saying, okay, we have a shot to make the playoffs. We can believe, we can think about it. Well, 2 teams were eliminated over the weekend. Minnesota, who got thrashed at home by Wisconsin. Now Wisconsin, after all the good love, good story that Minnesota was, Wisconsin's going to the Big Ten title game to play Ohio State. And Minnesota, I just talked about Rutgers, my senior year of high school, 2006. Minnesota feels a lot like that, where they have a big win at home against Penn State, but since then are 1-2 and have not backed up that big home win, not backed up all the rowing the boat nonsense that they want to talk about, and are going to be sitting at home Saturday as a 2-loss team, seeing if Wisconsin can rebound on what's been a disappointing last month and a half, with the 2 losses taking them out of playoff conversation, and potentially putting a blip in what has been a very good year for Ohio State. Ohio State, 2nd year in a row, going and destroying the team up north, the Michigan Wolverines, on Saturday. You'll look back in this game and say it was the D.K. Dobbins game, rushing for 4 touchdowns. But really, this was a game of mistakes for Michigan. You have them go right down the field with Giles Jackson getting an early score. They're up 6-0. Good field. The place is going nuts. Quinn Nordin misses the PAT. And then in the second quarter, they're down by 1 score. You still thinking, all right, there's hope for a miracle here. But Shea Patterson fumbles on Ohio State's 16-yard line, and Dobson comes down for his 3rd touchdown. I mean, it's just been an embarrassment for Michigan these last 2 years against Ohio State. They don't belong on the same field with them. They're allowing 118 points the last 2 years against the Buckeyes. They're 0-6 under Jim Harbaugh, lost their last 8 games against, as they say, the team up north. And it's a bad end to what's been a slightly disappointing regular season for them, because you looked at this as the year where they could get over the hump. With Urban Meyer not there, that maybe they can finally make some noise and not just win the Big Ten East, but also get to the Big Ten title game and maybe be a playoff contender. But that's all been knocked out the window with their 3 losses, and once again getting their asses kicked by the Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes, they're one of the teams that's sitting clear and pretty right now. They're undefeated, along with LSU, along with Clemson. And as long as those 3 teams don't slip up in their respective title games this weekend, they got a shot to go to the playoff. But you have 4 one-loss teams on the outside looking in. You got Oklahoma, who's playing Baylor, a rematch this Saturday at noon. Remember how that went last time they played. Oklahoma coming back from down 28-3 early on to pull off the stunner 34-31 on November 16th. Utah's still in the mix. They got a big game on Friday night that I'm looking forward to against Oregon. And Utah, their one blemish of the year is a loss to USC on September 20th. And for them, the good thing is that wasn't a late in the season loss, that it was early enough in the season for them to recover and bounce back from. You got Baylor, as I mentioned, they're going up against Oklahoma. They've still got 1 loss. And if things break right for them, they win that game, and things break right in front of them, they can get back in it. But no, you notice I didn't mention Alabama. Alabama eliminated. They're out. All right. I don't want to hear any crying from the Crimson Tide faithful. I don't want to hear any more. Oh, roll Tide. All right. You lost your 2nd game. You're done. Kaputs. Goodbye. No. There's not going to be any of this, maybe if this team loses, that team loses, maybe we could sneak back in. No, we can have the college football playoff without you. You had your opportunity on Saturday after losing 3 weeks ago to LSU in A game that, Tua tried to battle his way through with a clearly hobbled ankle. You had your chance, but Mac Jones threw 2 pick sixes in this game. You blew opportunities all around the field with your kicker missing a game-tying field goal with 2 minutes left. You got bad luck handed your way with the referees determining that there was still 1 second on the clock after the Tavares Whitlow catch to end the first half. They determined there was enough time left on the clock, and they were somehow able to snap the ball before that 1 second came off the clock. Too bad. Was it a bad call? Who knows? But hey, every once in a while, something cannot go your way. I mean, we don't always have to bow down and pray at the altar of great Saint Nick, all right? So I don't want to hear any more complaining from the Crimson Tide fans. We can go 1 year without you being in the mix, and the world will not end. No one's going to lose sleep over that. Coming up this Sunday is the start of the baseball winter meetings, so hopefully that gives me something to talk about with the Mets, Yankees, and everyone around baseball this coming week. So hopefully we get some big news there. I don't know if we'll hear about Cole or Strasburg signing, but maybe we'll get Zach Wheeler. Maybe we'll get Bumgarner signing. Maybe Anthony Rendon will sign. Relievers come off the board as quick as we've seen them through this offseason so far. Maybe we'll have something unexpected to happen in the NFL. Who knows? That's the crazy world of sports we live in. But until then, there's only one thing I can say to you all. That, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for hanging with me through this Tuesday afternoon. And I'll talk to you guys again next Monday afternoon. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you.
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, and I don't want to smell you. Now leave.
I'll be back.